I see some new faces. I see some familiar faces from our town halls. So if you're new here, welcome. So how these basically work is we run these town halls as a space for Montessori leaders and school administrators to discuss various leadership topics and just to have a space to find support, because we know it can get a little lonely at the top, and it's nice to have a place where you can connect with other leaders and find advice, especially during difficult times. So you'll notice that when you come into the meeting, you're muted just because we have several people on the call, but feel free to unmute yourself at any point if you have a question, or you can also drop any questions or comments in the chat. I'm going to briefly introduce our speaker today. I'm really excited to have Chanie here. She's an early childhood leadership coach and the CEO of Schools of Excellence, which I know some of you are familiar because you've commented throughout the week. She has worked with hundreds of EC directors and school owners who are working to build a school of excellence with their higher staff retention, teacher motivation, parent partnership, and a collaborative culture. She's going to be talking specifically about how you can create a stronger community that will allow you to keep your staff on longer. I know staff retention has been an issue for a lot of Montessori leaders. So we're really excited to have someone to share expertise on this topic. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Chanie now so that she can introduce herself a little more and just talk about this topic.
Thanks, Camilla. Well, welcome everyone. I always like to start off with just taking a breath and recognizing the moment that you're taking for yourself to invest in who you are as a leader. You spend basically 99% of your time pouring into your staff, pouring into your families, into the children. And so when you take 30 minutes or 45 minutes of your time to pour into yourself, it really has an impact. Today, we're going to be talking about creating a culture of contribution and a culture of promotion as a retention strategy. So when we talk about retention, very often as leaders, we look at it from the perspective of, I need to pay my staff more. I need to do more lunches. I need to give more gifts. I need to do more of this. I need to do more of that. And we operate from a place of, what else do I need to do more of to retain staff? And the perspective that I want to invite you to listen to from in today's session is, this isn't about what you need to do more of. This is about creating opportunity for the staff to level up and for the staff to be part of contributing to the culture that they're part of, to the school that they're part of. When people contribute, when people are part of something, they have skin in the game and they don't leave, or the chances of them leaving are a lot less because they're part of something bigger. You know, contrary to what a lot of people believe, when people are growing up in an environment where there's entitlement and everything is just given to them and they don't need to work hard, you actually don't enjoy it as much. I talk to my son all the time. So I have a 12-year-old son, I have a 10-year-old daughter, I have a 7-year-old daughter, and I have a 4-year-old son. So I have 4 children under the age of 12. And my son is actually working now. He's saving up money. He wants to buy this gadget, I don't know, like this 3D printing thing or something like that. And it costs like well over $200. So he's been saving over the last 6 months, and he's continuing to do all these things to earn money to purchase this thing. And I remember sitting down with him in conversation. He had like $40 cash at the time saved up. And I said, Mendel, you know, I want to tell you something about working towards something. The feeling that you're going to have when you make that purchase and you start enjoying that thing is a fleeting moment. What you're going to remember every time you look at that toy is not that you bought the toy. It's the hard work and the journey that you took to get there. All the things you had to do to earn that money is the memory that you're going to experience when you look at this toy. When I look at the house that we purchased, my family recently moved from New York to Florida in August of 2020. When I walk into my house every single day and I look at all the beautiful things that we have and just the joy of space and the house that we get to live in, I remember the decade of saving money every single month to make this purchase. It's not the purchase itself. It's not the raise or the gift card or the thank you card. It's the journey that gets there. It's the contribution that I made to stand in these walls that I call my own. So staff are very much the exact same way because we're all human, right? That's what brings us together as people, as a human species. When you contribute to something, that brings you as part of the journey of being part of creating this beautiful school. So it's not Jennifer's school, it's not Camilla's school, it's my school. It's my center, it's my classroom. And something becomes yours when you contribute to it, when you are part of it, right? I talk a lot about how many times teachers will bring an idea forward. I do this a lot when I coach lead teachers who have, assistant teachers or even co-teachers, right? Where you're, let's say, the veteran, and then you have someone newer coming in. What happens a lot of times is the new person will share an idea, right? And the veteran looks at that idea, and because of the experience and their age and the exposure that they've had, they look at that idea and they're like, oh, here's how to make the idea 100 times better, or 50% better, or whatever it is. And this is what I tell every single leader. You're going to make the idea 50% better, and you're going to poach all ownership with that idea, because now it's not her idea anymore, it's yours. It's not yours together because she's new and insecure and is looking for her footing in the classroom. And so is it worth it to make the idea better? Or is it more important to level up this person's confidence and their contribution to the classroom? And the answer is always the latter. The only reason we want to make it better is for our own ego and pride, which we all have because we're human. But let's find significance and meaning in other places versus always in the great ideas that we could produce and contribute and bring out. So I want to pause for a second here, and I would love to hear from you guys in the comments, ladies, gentlemen, in the comments. What is resonating with you from what I'm sharing right now? What is the perspective that you're hearing? What is sitting with you? So before I move on and share more, I just want to hear the pulse of where we are right now. So just let me know, just drop it into the comments section. Would love to just hear where we're holding. So what specifically, my friend? What's resonating? Allowing kids to work is a good thing. Yes, and allowing teachers to work and inviting teachers. So I had a conversation with a client of ours. We have a program where we work with owners and directors, and I had a conversation with an owner, and I said that there's a dichotomy that you've created in your center. You want ownership, you want leadership, but you make everything super easy for them. Well, leadership is not about things being easy. It's about understanding how to push through the noise and level up and ask questions and lean into difficult conversations. So if you want people to level up, you have to ask more questions, not make things easier for them and clear all the obstacles. Contribution, invitation. Thank you, Peter. Skin in the game means enticing people to the idea that their contributions matter and that we're looking for them to generate ideas. Exactly. Thank you, Peter. I was just thinking that I should do something, lunch gift cards for my teachers who are putting in the extra mile. Yes. So we have an entire podcast episode. It's episode 3 on the Schools of Excellence podcast. For those of you that are not familiar with our podcast, it's called the Gratitude Matrix, and it's trademark. It's a piece of intellectual property that our company designed on the journey that leaders take their teams through of how to design a culture of gratitude. Lunch and gift cards is appreciation. Gratitude is when you point out specificity of the person's contribution to the mission, vision, and values of the organization. When somebody knows that what they do impacts the mission of the company, impacts the vision of the organization, they're going to put a lot more skin into the game. Now, appreciation is important. I love a free lunch. I like gift cards. I like massages. I like getting my nails done. But gratitude fills a sense of purpose and meaning and connection with the company in a way that a free lunch can never do. And gratitude is free. And that's what I love about it also. We don't have to enhance everything. Yes, thank you, Tabitha. My role as the leader is the hard work put in to bring forth meaning and significance. Yes, exactly. This is such a powerful question I want to leave you guys with here. This is something that you need to reflect in on the side. We're not going to take the webinar to focus on. As a leader, where do you find significance now? And I want you to journal on this question, because the answer to this question is going to be enlightening for how you choose to fill up your day and be busy and what you choose to focus on as a leader. I agree wholeheartedly. I'm lucky enough to work at a school where everyone is a team player and feels ownership. Yes. Also, it's important to remember is everyone defines ownership in a very different way. So this brings me to kind of the next point here in the transition. What is a culture of contribution? What does it mean when we create an environment where teachers and leaders and administrators want to contribute to what is happening in the organization? Culturally, the way that many companies and specifically schools are designed is there's this career ladder. You're an assistant teacher, then you become a teacher. If you're a really great teacher, you become an assistant director. You go from assistant director to director, whatever it is. And it's a very linear approach. It's one way, you go up. Designing a culture of promotion and contribution is about creating a career lattice. A career lattice is opportunity for growth vertically, horizontally, diagonally. There's multiple different ways that you can contribute to the organization. And I'll explain what I mean by that. There are typically 3 ways that someone's looking for growth opportunity. Some people are looking for growth opportunity from a lifestyle perspective. They are looking for, I have this great skill set. I have this hobby. I like doing TikTok videos. I want to be more on social media. I want to do X, Y, and Z, right? And they're seeking that already in their pajamas, in their bedroom, where they're going out Friday night. They're seeking all of that. What if you created an invitation for them to do that and help grow your center? Right? So that's a lifestyle perspective of here's an opportunity to contribute that matches the lifestyle that you're currently seeking. Okay? The other thing to recognize is that some people are looking for growth, or some people are actually looking for, I need a change from the level of responsibility because of the season of life that I'm in. So you might have someone that just had a baby. You might have someone who's caring now for an elderly parent. You might have someone whose husband now is just deployed. And now they're in a different season of life. And so what they're actually looking for is, can you take away some responsibility from me? And someone else is in a season of growth and saying, give it to me. I want more responsibility. I want to level up. I want more opportunity. Well, how beautiful is that career lattice, right? Where you give someone a chance where they don't have to quit because they're taking care of an elderly parent now. They don't have to quit because their husband was deployed or they had a baby. No. We're going to create opportunity here for you in a different way. And we're also going to give an invitation for this new person to level up. This is the beauty of the lattice. There isn't one way for growth, right? So some people are looking for lifestyle changes. Some people are looking for growth. And when someone's looking for growth, they're typically coming from the place of ambition. I'm ready to put in the hours. I'm ready to do the work. I'm ready to learn the skills, right? That person is a very different person who's looking for a lifestyle contribution. So I get a question a lot from leaders where it's, well, how do I figure out all this information? Where do I get started? How do I really start putting this together? One of the first steps is actually knowing your people. And the challenge with knowing someone is you actually need to create time and space to have conversation. Relationships are built in small moments of conversation. There isn't a timestamp of, so on the 5th day of marriage, that's when you fall in love. On the 18th day of marriage is when you trust the person. And on the 20th day of marriage there's no dates. There's no timelines of when I trust you, when I know that you love me, when I know that you treasure me, when I know that I can rely on you. It happens through micro moments. And then it's all of a sudden you wake up one morning, you're like, I can really lean on this person. I can really trust this person. But you can't say, well, what was the date? What date was that you were like, that was the date that I trust that person? There's no date. Because there is no replacement for time. Relationships take time. You have to sit in conversation, eyeball to eyeball, in the same room with the person and have a conversation, right? This is beautiful, Zoom. There is so much power in technology where I'm able to share a message, you're able to learn information from other people, but relationships are built in person. Relationships, real, beautiful, authentic, meaningful relationships are built when you look in someone's eyes, not through the screen. And so those kinds of relationships start with one-on-one meetings, creating time in your calendar where you connect with your staff one-on-one. This is not to be confused with a flyby conversation when you pop your head into the door and you're like, hey, how are you? It's good to see you. I love your dress. Do you need anything? That's not a one-on-one. That's a, hey, I just want to remind you that I still know you exist. Good to see you. And then you pop out. A one-on-one is when you're sitting one-on-one with a teacher, where your door is closed, where your phone is off, where your browsers are shut down, where you tell the admin assistant I'm not available for 30 minutes, and you talk to the person. Anyone here in a relationship? Married, partner, whatever it is? Okay. How many of you want to break the phone when your partner's trying to have a conversation with you and they have a phone in front of them? The phone, the computer, the technology breaks relationships, right? You're not listening when you're looking on Twitter. You're not. Stop trying to think you can multitask. You can't. Look at my eyes and listen to me. You want that in your relationships. Your staff want that also. And that is how you can listen to the nuance of what they're telling you without really saying it, right? So many teachers have a cry for help when they're talking, where they're saying, I don't have a support system. I don't know how to even take care of myself. I don't have time for me, right? I coached an owner. She has a teacher who's taking care of two elderly parents. And in the one-on-one, the teacher was kind of going through like all the things that she's responsible for when it comes to her parents. And the owner came to me and she said, how do I help this teacher? And I said, well, one conversation to have with her is, what if you showed her some options that she has? She might not realize that, hey, maybe I can hire a cleaning service once a week who can come to my parents' house and clean the house so that I'm not responsible to also clean. I'm here to take care of them emotionally, but someone else cleans the house. And she's like, yeah, I actually don't think that even crossed her mind. What a beautiful way to help a teacher alleviate the stress in her mind of taking care of elderly parents. So many times when you're in survival, you don't realize the strategies and the opportunities and the solutions in front of you, and you need support to show you, hey, here's the easier way to do it. Hey, I got your back. That's designed in the one-on-ones. The other thing when it comes to a culture of contribution is, what are teachers' hobbies and current skill sets? I was talking with an owner who found out that she has a teacher who actually is a massage therapist. She went to training. She had this, like she had her own kind of massage business for a little bit, and then she decided to go into childcare. And I said, what if you did a staff development day and this teacher created 15-minute time blocks and gave people massages? And she's like, oh, I don't know if she would like that. I'm like, ask her. Ask her. Anyways, the teacher was in heaven. She created this beautiful spa room out of the teacher's lounge. She hung up these Christmas lights. She put essential oils in the room. She put on this music. And during the staff development day, she gave 15-minute massages to the teachers. And she came to the owner when the day was over, and she's like, thank you for letting me share my gifts with everyone. I had so much fun today. She didn't get paid. She didn't have to pay her extra. She fueled her soul. Fueled her soul, right? So much of this is our own assumptions around, oh, I don't want to ask her to do that. Like, what if she gets insulted that I asked her to give massages, right? We project all of our own insecurities on the team. Ask them. Grown-ups are allowed to say, no, thank you, I don't want to do that. And then other grown-ups who are listening to that say, I respect your boundary. Thank you for telling me that. That's what it means to be in a grown-up relationship. The person is allowed to say no, and you can respect their boundary. And this is where training for staff on how to create beautiful boundaries. Did you know that it's okay to say no? Did you know that it's okay to tell someone, I actually don't have bandwidth for that this week. I can prepare that for you in 2 weeks from now. Did you know that you don't need to tell the person why you don't have time this week? That's not their information to know. That's okay. You don't have to divulge your entire personal life to the other person. All right, let me pause here for a second again. Insights. What are you hearing? What are you writing down? I see so many people taking notes. What are you writing down? What are your insights? Let's pull together here, and then I'm going to move on. Jennifer, fuel their souls. Yes, every person who's sitting here has something that they will do for free because it fuels their soul. They don't need to be compensated or whatever it is. It's like, thank you for allowing me to do that. Thank you. I had a great start to my day because of the one-on-ones. Yes, Tina, thank you. One-on-ones are fueling for the leader. Peter, relationships are built with time and authentic attention. Yes. We had another teacher who has a bachelor in science, and she studied kind of science and physics and all these different things when she was in school. And she did a workshop for the staff on how to bring these different kind of science experiments into the classroom for the children. And she prepared for it, and she brought materials, and she gave this whole session. And this was a teacher who was new, and she was very shy. She was having a hard time connecting with everyone. And after this workshop that she gave, she started to make friends. Like, people are like, wow, that's really cool that you know all that stuff. And that was kind of her in to like have friends at the center. This is another piece of a retention strategy. There's been data, there's been a lot of studies that have been done that people stay in cultures where they have a friend. Right? When I know that I have a friend at work, I want to be there. As a head teacher and a director, I'm super busy. I was doing paperwork. I've recently started to make time to talk to the team. Yes, yes. This is the power of the pause. Anything that's really meaningful that we have in our life has not been designed through hustle and busyness. Think about your beautiful relationships, your marriage, relationships with your kids, the center that you've built. What you drive meaning and purpose from is not designed in hustle, right? You get to enjoy it in the pause, in the reflection, right? Even think about athletes or fitness trainers. Muscle is built in the rest day. It's not built while you're flexing the muscle. It's built in the rest. This is why athletes rest. They don't practice 24 hours a day. People by day, papers by night. Yeah. I'm struggling to find my own inspiration needed to help fuel others. Any suggestions for getting those needs met ourselves? Jennifer, I'm so glad you asked this question. So I'm just going to articulate it one more time for everyone. To be quite honest, this has always been something I value and prioritize. Most recently, I'm struggling to find inspiration needed to help fuel others. So I'm going to share a couple of strategies that I typically recommend for owners and for leaders. One is we play as kids. We have a lot of time to play. We are encouraged to play. And then when we become adults and we're responsible and we have mortgages to pay and we have bills to pay, we forget to play. We forget to have fun. We forget that play and fun is what drives inspiration and creativity and meaning. So I tell this often to leaders, there needs to be time on your calendar to play. Now, playtime as a leader is going to look different for every person. So here's how I measure it. My calendar is color coded based on days of the week. So I have Mondays are for meetings, Tuesdays are creative strategy, Wednesdays are client delivery, Thursdays are relationship and visibility. That's why I'm live here. And Fridays are catch up and financials. Then my calendar has obviously all the different meetings that I have. One of the things that has to be across the board on my calendar is purple space. Purple is play for me. Is there time on my calendar where I've set up time to play? And during different seasons, it means different things. During this season, it means time to take a walk. During the summer season, it's time to go swimming in our pool. During every single season, it's time to read a book with my son or play football in the back with my other son. What is play for me? Depending on your season of life, it's going to mean something else. Decide today. This is another great reflection question to write. What is my definition of play during this season? Another thing that I do is I make sure I live 15 minutes from the beach. I make sure to get to the beach at least twice a month. Having my feet in the sand, looking at the ocean, that gives me inspiration. It fuels me. Yeah, running on fumes creates a very frantic, reactive approach to leadership. And the energy is really felt by the team. You can't plaster a fake smile and say fake it till you make it. I'm going to tell you a very vulnerable story that happened to me just 3 weeks ago. So I went to get a massage and I came back and my 4-year-old son was sitting on the couch and he said, "Mommy, you sound different." And I wasn't even talking. I'm like, "What do you mean?" So he's like, "You're making different sounds." So I said, is mommy really calm today? Does mommy look very different? He's like, "Yeah." So then we were talking about that. And then he asked me, is today Shabbat? So on Saturday is when we don't have technologies. We don't have any of that stuff. And so I naturally have a calming state when I don't have technology around me. And he's like, "Is it Shabbat today?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Oh." And what was so interesting was he felt my energetic difference, right? I came back from this massage. I was calmer. My whole energy was different. It was so different that he thought it was a different day of the week. That's how different it was. Your team feels your energy. So even if you are talking a certain way or showing up a certain way, if your brain is busy and you're running on fumes, your team feels that. And this is why protecting your time and energy is a retention strategy. Because the calmer you are, the calmer the environment is, people want to stay there. People are magnetized to calming leadership and energy. Get what I need to succeed. Yeah, I love that. Students feel energy in a second. In a second, they feel energy. Okay, so let's recap here for a moment what we've spoken about so far. We've spoken about creating this culture of contribution where staff can share their talents, their hobbies, their joys. We spoke about what it means to create this culture of promotion or career lattice where there's opportunity for different people to level up and come into positions of leadership. I want to shift now to when we're designing our retention strategy, because what I do know for certain is every person on here has a marketing strategy. You know exactly how you're going to bring in qualified parents, what your tours look like. You have a financial strategy, how you make sure to pay the bills and hopefully run profit. A retention strategy or a strategic plan around designing culture is not as common, unfortunately. My goal is through my trainings and through the podcast and through a lot of the work that we're doing is to make this more common practice. There's multiple layers that come into your retention strategy. And we spoke about taking care of yourself as the first component of that. Taking care of yourself looks very different depending on season of life that you're in. The first thing when it comes to taking care of yourself is, what is the standard for when you walk into the building? What do you allow and what do you not allow? Do you allow everyone to attack you with 1,000 questions and things? I need this from you. I need this from you. Hey, can you come over here? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Or is the first 20 minutes untouchable? No one is allowed to talk to you. There is a standard that when Mia walks into the building, everyone knows to give her 20 minutes before they knock on her door. Leaders are terrified to create a boundary like this. What do you mean? I need to be available for my people. The leader who is always available isn't listening. You cannot possibly always be available to your team. That's how you lead to burnout and run on fumes. So what is a practice as a retention strategy? Because if you look at this as a retention strategy, you are 10 times more likely to actually execute on it. Because a retention strategy keeps money in the door. There are thousands of dollars that your business loses every year when you lose staff. So how do you need to protect yourself? Okay, that's step one. Now let's go into designing time for one-on-ones. Just curious, just to get some data, let me know in the comments, how many of you currently have a practice where you meet with staff one-on-one? Amazing. Okay, some, not all yet. Okay, thank you. There isn't 2 people on the call. I meet with all of them a few times during the year one-on-one, okay? Sometimes the hottest fires gets the first drink of water. Yes. I take my kids on one-on-one dates every month. And I took my daughter Goldie, she's 10, on a one-on-one date 2 weeks ago. And I said, what is something that you feel like you need that mommy and daddy aren't giving you right now? And she said, in the morning, I feel like the other kids get all the attention because they need the most help. And I would love if you checked in on me, even though I know how to take care of myself. Now, she's very articulate, and most 10-year-olds wouldn't be able to articulate that. But what she was saying was, I don't get attention in the morning because I know what to do. But I still want attention in the morning, right? So to answer that question, right, where the hottest fire gets the first drink of water, that's what happens in our house in the morning, right? The kids who need the most help are getting the most of our attention. But then what she's saying is, I feel neglected. I don't feel seen. So we redesigned our morning schedule where my husband and I make time to also check in with her, right? Where we're not on top of the kids who need the most help, but we're also checking in with each kid. What does each child need? So she doesn't need help putting on her shirt, but an emotional check-in is very important. One-on-ones twice a month. Wow, that's incredible. We go for standard at least once a month, but twice a month, that's phenomenal. We actually have a whole podcast episode on how to run one-on-ones, and I think it comes with a PDF of questions to ask, so I would definitely go check that out. I have a whole walkthrough on that. In the one-on-ones, you're looking for data. You're looking for, is this teacher taking care of herself? I forget the number right now because I forgot to write it down, but there's a super high percentage of staff who, the moment they feel burnt out, they just leave. They don't have the courage or the emotional maturity to come over to you and say, Jennifer, I'm burnt out. I need to talk to you about my workload. This is too much for me. They don't have that vocabulary. So what they do is they bow out. And so your retention strategy is, this is a question I tell leaders to ask at every one-on-one. What have you done to take care of yourself in the last 24 hours? If they cannot answer that question, they are heading straight to the burnout wall. What have you done to take care of yourself? Not to take care of your kids or your dogs or your husband or the kids or the parents. You. What have you done to take care of you in the last 24 hours? I remember when I was a director and I asked that question to a teacher who was 47 years old at the time. And the first time I asked her that question, she was very guarded first. She's like, I don't know, da, da, da. And then as I kind of leaned in, she started crying. She's like, I can't remember the last time I ever did something for myself. Forget about the last 24 hours. This is especially highly prevalent in women. Just from a data perspective, women are a lot less likely to take care of themselves. Yes, we have a people pleaser mindset. Exactly. And this is where the definition of kindness versus niceness comes in, right? Be kind to yourself. So that's at the one-on-ones. What have you done to take care of yourself? Because now you're forecasting burnout. You're looking ahead and saying, I need you to take care of yourself. Here are some ideas of what to do. When you take care of yourself, you could take care of the kids, right? I'm here for you. Please let me know if this is too much for you to carry. I just had a conversation with my operations manager, and I noticed last week that she was kind of scurrying around, a little squirrely brained, kind of just taking care of like a bunch of stuff. And on Monday's call, I said, hey, I want to kind of go high level back with you. I noticed last week that you got into the weeds. And I want to ask you, what do you need from me to pull yourself out of that? Because your job is to stay up here in this strategic level. And she said, I actually need a full day that I turn off all notifications so I can go head down and focus on what I need to focus on. I said, great. This is your permission to turn off all your notifications and go head down and focus on what you need to focus. We have to create a culture where people can ask for what they need without repercussions, right? She needs to be able to have the safety to know that she could say, I need a day without notifications so that I can do this work. And as a leader, I need to have the emotional maturity to say, yes, you do need to take that time. So we spoke about taking care of yourself. We spoke about having consistent conversation. This happens so often. The teachers will say things like, he grabbed again, or this happened again. And I'm like, yeah, he's 2. Yeah, but the class rules are this. And I said it in the beginning of the year. I'm like, and he's 2. And he needs a lot of reminders. You know you're not supposed to drink alcohol late at night. You know it's not good to have cheesecake at 11 o'clock at night. You know that it's not good to do all those things. You still do it sometimes. And you're 40. He's been in the world for 19 months. So here we go for leaders. Staff need reminders all the time. What are you doing to take care of yourself? Please come forward when you're overwhelmed. I'm here to help you. Sometimes we get into a busy season and I don't realize that I've overtasked you. You have permission to come forward to me and tell me when you feel overtaxed. It's interesting because some people think that's complaining. In their mind, they have been programmed that way because when they spoke up, their mom said, quit complaining, quit whining, quit this, quit that, right? Because they may have said it in a whiny voice. What we need to do is there's a difference between complaining and self-advocacy, right? My daughters still whine and complain. And I tell them, tell me that in a different voice. I want to hear what you have to say. It's important for me to know what's bothering you. You may not talk in that tone of voice. Start over. I'm ready to listen, right? I want my daughters to know they need to advocate for themselves, but don't talk like that. That's not okay in our house, right? So what if you need to do a little staff training on the difference between complaining and self-advocacy, on the difference between nitpicking versus actually wanting to help and serve? I'm releasing a podcast in 3 weeks on how to coach staff to stop nitpicking. It's been a reoccurring theme. So I'm going to pause here because, again, I could talk about this all day. And I want to invite questions, and I want to invite anyone who has a specific thing that they want to work through or needs a specific idea. And then we also created a special workbook for you guys on how to create a culture of accountability versus blame. So we'll send that over to you guys. I can actually drop that in the comments as well. Feel free to unlock yourself or just raise your hand. And I would love to take questions. I absolutely love questions.
I'd just like to say that
Hi, Kathleen.
you are such a gift.
Thank you.
This is, no, truly, I've been in it for 55 years, and I have never heard anyone speak like this about developing staff. Some of it I do naturally, thank God. And so I have been able to retain staff, but it's huge. And your own personal beauty and your clarity of thought, your good-heartedness, it's truly a gift. And so I'm sure every time you'll laugh, but every time you open your mouth, you gift people. And for that, I'm grateful. I'm very, very grateful that I'm here today with you. So thank you.
Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it and I accept it. And I'm going to internalize that and reflect on it. So thank you. Elizabeth, some of my staff just need some time to plan and collaborate. We do not have staff to cover for them to step out. Our admin team is helping cover other gaps. It's a tough season to be leading a team. I'm never going to diminish that. It is, we are so tired as a society, as a culture, and as a childcare leader industry. I think this has been a massive reset, both from expectation, from mindset, and from understanding who are the real leaders in our world and in our country. I think, as a society, we value the athletes and politicians and women on magazines, and who are the real legendary leaders are the people that are responsible for raising the next generation of leaders. And how we manage our emotions, how we practice boundaries, how we show up in those moments impact our children in ways that we can never really fully understand until several decades from now. And so the people that are on these calls, the people that are doing legendary work that doesn't get recognized, is truly what it means to lead legendary service and legendary leadership, because you're looking on how to create a new narrative around conflict. Conflict is not about pitting your opinion against the other person and fighting for entertainment. Conflict is, you look at it this way, I look at it this way. How are we going to come together? Because here's the bottom line. We both care about the same person, the child. So you think we should do circle time here, and you think we should bring out this here. But why are we both arguing or debating over this? Because each of us think this is what's best for the kids. What if they're both right? Inviting, this is like a whole separate conversation around conflict, and my event that I'm doing, the Summit of Excellence, the theme is conflict and kindness. Changing the narrative. Conflict is not bad. Anyone who's been married for more than a year knows that conflict is an invitation to come closer together if you know how to debate and argue as a couple. Well, a teaching team is a couple. They're a couple in the classroom. Do you know how to argue and debate? Do you know how to share difference of opinion without getting offended? Right? How do you communicate and talk? We're not all supposed to agree all the time. I have a different value system. You have a different belief system. You were raised differently. You were taught this. You were taught Waldorf, Montessori, Reggio inspired. Well, and what? And we're all supposed to agree all the time? That's not a real world. That's not even a beautiful world. I don't want to sit in my own echo chamber. I want people to challenge my perspective. That's how I learn and grow. Peter.
A lot of leaders have reported to me that where their staff is struggling is this idea that there's this sense that we always need to be professionally developing, and that they've said, like, they've wondered aloud to me, is it time to just hold the line and maintain what we're doing without the expectation that professional development is a be-all end-all and has to happen all year, every year in the middle of a global pandemic? What's your advice for that?
Oh, this is such a good question, Peter. I just did a Facebook Live on this with someone else where I spoke about the difference between growth seasons and maintenance seasons. And what I think sometimes we misinterpret maintenance as being whatever we're doing is fine, and we're just going to maintain that. And if we dip down a little bit, that's fine. If we dip down a little bit more, that's also fine. And if this fire happens, that's also fine. Now we're just trying to survive. I think there's a difference between pausing for reflection and maintaining, while taking the time where each person is being introspective with themselves versus creating professional development and growth from the lens of, okay, here's how I'm going to teach you how to do this better in the classroom. Here's how I'm going to do this better. And spending a maintenance year focused on, let's talk about some of the day-to-day things that you experienced today. You had a parent who yelled at you at the front. You had another parent who sent a really not nice email. You had another teacher who said this. Let's talk about how we can navigate that. How could we do better next time? Not a whole training session, not just a conversation. We don't have time and space for that during growth and obsession of professional development. That's what I mean by maintenance. Are we taking care of our souls, our own emotional regulation? Is that helpful? No one wins the game of who is more right. Oh, yes. We have a rule in our marriage. The words never and always are not allowed because they're not true. Nobody never does something, and nobody always does something. And so, this will happen a lot. You never do this, or you always do this, or it's not true. And so we just don't have that in our vernacular, and it's been life-changing because you approach the conversation from such a different perspective. Any other questions? And if you don't have questions, I would love for you to post in the comments your big insight and your takeaway from today's session. And then I want to give some more space for questions and some other strategies I want to share. Never and always are indicative of the 4 horses. I love that. That's great. Thank you, Peter. I like that. This supports a lot of what we do and gives ways to enhance and improve. Thank you, Christine. Yes. And looking at all these from the lens of my retention strategy, a strategic plan for culture. Fabulous. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Chanie, what would you say? I have a question. What would you say? Because you talked about the idea of, I'm sure that all of you have a marketing strategy, right? So when we
Oh.
think about strategy, it's usually 1 or 2 or 3 years out, sometimes longer. When you think about retention strategy, what are the bare bones of who do you involve in creating that strategy? What are the ways to approach creating a retention strategy? Like mostly I've heard you talk about relationships. Are there any other practical things that we can do that are about logic, analysis, and reason?
So what I think you're asking is you're looking for what can I track and measure, because what gets measured gets improved, right? And so when we look at marketing data or financials, it's very easy for us to track where are we going off track because we're not hitting our numbers. So one of the measures from a logistical standpoint is actually measuring the amount of gratitude that you give your team. And I'll explain to you what I mean because we've done a lot of studies on this. When we increase the specificity of gratitude that we give staff, meaning we're actually either writing cards or recording voice memos and actually telling staff, so here's an example of a gratitude message. Hey, I just passed by your classroom and I just wanted to let you know I noticed X, Y, and Z in your classroom. It's a beautiful documentation board. It's really aligned with our company's mission, vision, and values. You're a tremendous asset to the team. Thank you for being here every day. What happens is when those messages get increased and we do them consistently, they actually get tracked. So when I work with clients, we track gratitude. So if you have 15 teachers, did you give 30 points of gratitude this month? Every teacher should get 2 points of gratitude, 2 touch points. What happens is through the data, call outs start decreasing. So the amount of teachers calling out sick or whatever it is decreases, and retention goes up, gossip goes down, and collaborative conversation goes up. Here's why. When people feel seen and heard and valued, they complain less. When people feel seen and heard and valued, they don't call in for stupid things, right? A lot of times when teachers call in, they're calling in because they're burnt out, because they're tired, and then they just make up excuses, right? When we create an environment where I see you, you're valued and respected, again, relationships, all of those things decrease. And we actually have the data on that podcast where we interviewed someone who spoke about her test run that she did over 30 days. And I can't remember the exact data, but her call outs went down, I think by 60% in 30 days. So I know for the analytical person inside of you, tracking that is actually really powerful.
Wow.
We don't attain retention to something like that because it seems so simple. But I want to tell you, like, I track gratitude points with my own kids. Am I doing the 80-20 rule? Am I doing 80% of my interactions? Are they positive or are they negative? Right? Because if 80% of my interactions with them are positive, then I'm building a beautiful relationship with them. Right? And we have to track it. Right? How am I showing up? Right? It's not culturally, we've tracked numbers and data, but you could track relationship points and trackable habits that compound into these incredible cultures that we build. Yes, trackable habits. If we don't care for the people we have in our team, how can we properly care for the children? Yeah. Create a reminder in your calendar. You can even take out your phone right now. I have a reminder every Friday on my calendar. It says gratitude for my team. And so every Friday at 9 o'clock, I have a practice where I go into our project board and I look, what are the projects that the team completed this week? And then I record a voice message for every member of my team, thanking them for the project growth that they've done for the whatever it is, and then also how they contributed to the culture. It takes me about 10 minutes. That is the highlight of my team's week. They know it's coming every Friday and they still can't wait for it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other specific questions, insights, tracking gratitude points. Yeah. Definitely go check out that podcast. I literally walk you through step by step of how to do it. So I would definitely go check it out. It's free. You can follow my whole process inside of there. Camilla, yeah.
All right. Since there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up here. I just want to thank Chanie for her time and sharing her wisdom. I think all of this was so much needed and it was hugely requested by the community. So thank you so much. Kathleen's asking, where do we reach you?
Yeah.
Would you be able to share your email or?
Yeah, I was just going to do that. Yeah, I could put my email inside. And then another way to get connected with me is through Facebook or on our podcast as well. Those are some of our main platforms.
Yeah, I dropped the link for the podcast. It's great. There's lots of topics that would be relevant for this community. For those of you who are coming back next week, we're going to be talking about alumni communities. This is actually requested by Heidi, who's on the call. So thank you so much to Heidi for requesting such a good topic for next week. Also, mark your calendars because Chanie's coming back to talk with us March 10th. So if you want to hear from Chanie again, mark your calendars for March 10th, the same time. It's the same registration link as well that I'm going to drop in the chat. We always use the same registration link. These events are always free and open to all Montessori administrators. And yeah, spread the word. If you know any other Montessori leaders or administrators, feel free to invite them. We always like to have new members in the community because it just allows for more ideas, which is always great. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, Chanie, and thank you everyone who joined. I think it shows a lot that you care for yourself and care for your community to come and discuss important topics like this.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and attention. I know that it's a very rare thing to have right now, time and attention. So I always appreciate when I get people's time and attention. So thank you. And wishing all of you just peace, grace, and just the continued drive to show up and do the important work that you're doing, because it's not easy. So thank you.
Definitely. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you.